The nerves just sat in. I'm a heroin addict. My name's Clint, and I'm ADHD. So if I look up here and not pay attention to y'all, that's how I kind of concentrate. I'm also really tired. I get up at 3:30 in the morning to go to work, and yeah. Anyway, so it's kind of weird coming back down to Salem. I was trying to figure out how much time I've actually lived here in Salem. And I've done about just under 7 years here in Salem. My address is Wazonsville Highway, whatever you call it, Deer Park, and State Street. And so I'll say this, I'm here at a Heroin Anonymous meeting, but my drug of choice is crime. I didn't do a bunch of crime so I could go out and get more drugs. I did drugs so I could go out and do a bunch more crime. That was my trip. Where do I go back? Okay, so if I bounce all around, I hope that you guys pick something up out of this. I've been a junkie since real young. Whether I want to admit that or not, because it started out with the normal progression. With the marijuana and the drinking and all that kind of stuff, all the way up through. My childhood was good, but I just chose, do something different. I always felt like I was just off and awkward or just different. Even though I could be really popular in school and doing really good in sports, I still felt like I just didn't quite fit in or just felt a little bit strange. Moving forward. So anyways, I've done... in my lifetime, I'm 48 now. I've done 6 penitentiary sets in 3 different states. In Washington, I've been to Shelton and Walla Walla. Here in Oregon, I've been to OSP, OCI, Santiam, Snake River, Columbia River, Shutter Creek, to the boot camp, and to Forest Camp. Then down in Arizona, I've done 2 sets, and those were in Florence. I was at North Yard Unit 2 and 3, SMU 2, Central, CB6 and CB8. Down in Tucson, I've been to Echo Unit, SMU 2, and to Rincon, which was a 4-yard. And that 15 years of my life almost was spent in the penitentiary, and I never really lasted too long out on the streets. I just could never figure out how to live out there. I had no idea. I started using shooting dope at a real young age, like probably a little after 16 years old. I started shooting dope, and all I knew was penitentiary. I knew how to get out. I knew how to shoot dope. And I knew how to commit crime, and that's all I really knew how to do, man. I didn't really have any job skills. And every time I would get out of the joint, I'd just go straight back to that, every single time. So, also along this journey and this travel, I've been through 14 inpatient facilities. Always, the first probably 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 of them, was usually for my PO's sake. Or I was trying to, not do or get as much time, or, it was like a diversion kind of thing. I didn't want to go to the joint again, so I'd usually choose something like that, and I'd end up completing. Then I'd get out, and again, I'd be right back to where I was. I had no idea how to live out here, man. I had no idea how to work a job, have an apartment, do any of that kind of stuff. I had no idea. So I just, it was that vicious circle just going on and on and on and on. And I'll jump forward, obviously, I could talk about wreckage and all that kind of shit all day long, but we all know what that's like. We've all done it. We've all been there. The addiction is dark, and for me, heroin was my drug of choice. That's what I'd always go to. It didn't matter what I'd start out with, coming out of treatment, it's like, I'm only going to smoke a little weed, or I'm just going to drink a little beer, and before you know it, I've got heroin and speed in my arm, that's just what I know, And so, coming up to my last treatment facility, which is CODA in Portland, well, let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, so I before my second to last treatment center, when I was DHS involved with my daughter, my oldest daughter, and my baby's mom, and she went to a treatment facility and got clean, and I ran amok, and I got in trouble with the law, and I went, and my option was to go to treatment. Never buckled down because I wasn't ready to be a dad yet or anything like that. I just wanted to shoot dope and crime. And so, I ended up going to this treatment facility, and when I got out of the treatment facility, she got out and she stayed clean for about 4.5 years, and I got out and went right back to what I knew again, and so anyways, this is really jumbled, but anyway, so moving forward, she went off and we separated, we went our own ways because she was doing clean things, living, and I was out there just becoming more of a shell and less feelings with all those kinds of things that cause more wreckage and all that kind of shit. I ended up getting another relationship with another baby's mom and have another child with my youngest, and I ended up getting into a DHS case with her, and she wasn't doing anything, and we had just split. What she had done is she had made one of those domestic violence things where you get the money, so she could run amok and all that kind of stuff. Not saying that I hadn't abused her or put my hands on her, because I have, but not for a long time, and anyways, it's here nor there. She did this to get money, and we got DHS involved, and I wanted something different, man. I wanted something different, and I had no idea what that was or what that looked like or how that was ever going to work. I didn't really believe that anything would work for a junkie like me, because I've been through so many treatments. I had tried to get out, and I'd get out, and of course I would go to meetings because I was trying to meet girls or whatever. Of course I would go to get a sponsor for my PO, because you got to have one. They want a number and shit. But then the things what end up is I'd end up meeting a girl. We would, and then I wouldn't want to do that, and I'd cause wreckage with her, and I'd want to beat another girl, and then I didn't want to go to that meeting, and then and it just became worse and worse, and it was like this huge circle. So I really didn't believe anything could work for me, man. I thought that I was either going to die in a bathroom or that I was going to die in a penitentiary cell. So I got to my last treatment center, and when she did that, when we made that split, the truth is she broke my heart, because I was in love with this girl, at least what I thought was love. Maybe I was just more in love with the idea of being in love with her than actually in love with her, but I felt like I was in love with her, and she broke my heart at that time. I wanted something different, and so I was like, ding, treatment, because I figured maybe, because let's face it, guys, we all know how to get clean. We can go to detoxes, we can go to jail, we can move out of state for a minute until we find a new hookup, we can do all those kinds of things, but to stay clean, I had no idea how to do that. So I ended up going into this last treatment center at Coda, and I showed up there with a dirty backpack, with just some raggedy ass clothes, maybe some that I found on the ground, picked up, and that's all right, sure, keep that one. I'm pretty confident I didn't have any socks, because I'm positive I wiped my ass with them. That's my truth, and so when I got there, I was broken, I was defeated, I wanted something different, and I was scared, man, and I got there and I had nothing, I was DHS involved. At that point in time, I'd been on parole for 26 years straight. I'm a habitual absconder. I get out. Sometimes I would report that first day, so it'd buy me that week, but most of the time, if I got a bag the first, then I didn't buy. So anyway, I got to this last treatment center, and I was there, and I was really hip to all the sayings in the room, that keep coming back, first things first, all those things they've got on the wall, because I've been through so many treatment facilities and so many times, I could recite all this literature and shit just by seeing stuff, or whatever, but like I said again, I never believed anything would work for me. So when I got there, I just started trucking along, and what I'll say, you know, I was willing to do whatever it took this time, you know. And people would ask me, well, what's different? Well, what's different? Well, what's different? And, you know, I seriously thought about that for a little while, you know, and I was like, what's the fucking same? And for me, nothing was the same this time, you know what I mean? I wanted something different, man, bad. Not saying that I didn't want to get clean prior to that, because, I mean, I don't know if any of y'all like me, but there was times when I was looking at that needle trying to shoot, you know, and I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to do this shit anymore. Fuck, I don't want to do this shit anymore, you know, but I just kept on fucking hitting, you know, and so I started out this process, and I'm here to tell you guys that for any newcomers or anything like here, my number one suggestion is get a sponsor and work steps, period. That's my main suggestion to any of y'all, because I'd never done that before. You know, like I said, I got to meetings, I did the bare necessities, but I never really did it all. I wanted to pick and choose what I wanted to do. You know, what I felt like, you know, I want to go to some meetings, whatever, but work some steps. It sounds like a lot of work. I didn't want to do that. A sponsor was only for the PO. Never called them or anything. So I remember while I was in treatment, at the beginning, we were able to go to an outside meeting. It was a noon meeting. And they opened up the meeting, and I raised my hand, and I said, hey, my name's Clint. I'm an addict, and I need a sponsor, and I need help. Thanks. And that's all I said. And the secretary says, is there anybody willing to sponsor in here? And so, there was this guy that was back across from me over here that looked like a clean-cut dude, you know, looked like he had his shit together or whatever. And then he raised his hand, and there's this guy right to my right, and he was like a one-armed freak. Looked like just a total dirtbag, just fucking whatever. So I'm picking that dude. Well, here's my higher power at work, you know. During that meeting, that guy left. And so I was forced to asking this guy, you know. And yes, it was like asking a man on a date. It felt weird, you know, it was uncomfortable. But I went up to him and I was like, hey, you know, and I'll never forget this man forever. I was like, you know, will you sponsor me? And he's like, fuck, I can remember this perfect. He's like, I won't confirm or deny. Call me for a week or two and we'll talk about it. I'm like, what the fuck is that, man? I mean, seriously, you know, I mean, I just got my nutsack up to ask him, and he's like, I won't confirm or deny. Call me for a week or two. You know, it's like, what the fuck, dude? I was expecting him to say, fuck yeah, I'll sponsor you. Hell yeah. You just raised your hand and said you'll sponsor people, you know. But that isn't what he did. But where I'm going with this is, you know what, like I said, I was willing to do whatever it took. So that's what I did. I called him every day, man. And he's like, hey, we're going to a meeting this one Sunday, man. And this one Sunday, he took me downtown Portland to the Alano Club upstairs. The meeting's called The Way Out. And it was my first taste of HA, man. And you know what? I fell in love with that place, man. You know, I fell in love with those people because those people understand me. They know me, you know what I mean? And I know them. You know, to me, it's my opinion, you know, and my opinion's a lot of times wrong, but you know, for me, my belief is heroin is a different beast than any other drug. You know what I mean? You know, it isn't like we shoot too much speed and like overamp and wake up all weird. You know, we die. You know what I mean? And since I've been in the rooms now, my clean date is 5/30/2014. So I just celebrated 4 years. And in these 4 years, I've had 33 people that have died now. You know what I mean? All heroin or pill or overdoses. And that's a fucking lot, man. And they're saying, like, in the room with us, you know, in the rooms walking with us, like, hey, and now they're no longer. They never get a shot at this ever again, you know what I mean? So, fuck. So, anyway, so I got into that group, and I made that group my home group, man. And he started taking me down to that meeting every week. You know, I got my first service position there. And he even took me on as a sponsor because I called him for a couple weeks straight. He took me on as a sponsor or a sponsee. And you know, I'm ADHD, so I'm like, well, when are we going to work steps? When are we going to work steps? Because I heard of that, you know. When are we going to work steps? He's like, fucking pump brakes, dude. We'll work steps when you get out of treatment. Whenever you're in treatment, do treatment. You know what I mean? And I was like, fuck, that ain't the answer I want. But so that's what I did, you know. And I made that group my home group. I got my first service position there as secretary. So, you know, I got to read, like, hi, my name's Clint. I'm an addict. And I'll tell you what, in that room, like I told you at the beginning, you always felt like off or awkward or different or just not a part of or something. But, you know, in that room is where I first started feeling like I was a part of something, man. You know, I would recognize people's faces and shit who I'd seen before and stuff. But people were coming up to me and they're saying like, "Hi, Clint, how's it going, man?" And they didn't want nothing in my pockets, and they didn't want nothing, man. They were just like, are sincerely interested in how I'm doing, right? And I did. I felt a part of something. So, I started that service station there and doing that. I was doing treatment. I got a sponsor now. My PO is like, good job, which was weird to hear, and she wasn't arresting me, but and I'll never forget this too. There's another big point in my story too. I went to my first FDM, DHS FDM. It's a family decision meeting where you have your attorney, the baby's attorney, your DHS caseworker, my counselor, the program director, just all these people in here. And I was really ignorant to what father's rights were like. I thought that if mom, who was out there running amok, didn't show up to the plate and didn't get our kid back, I thought that my child obviously went to foster care or whatever, right? That's what I thought would happen. I was ignorant. And so I'll never forget, in that meeting I was asking, isn't this a mother state? Isn't that what happens? And my DHS caseworker said, we don't place your child with the mother, so to speak. We place your child with the best fit parent. And when I heard that, man, I hit the ground fucking running. It was like, whoopsh, whoopsh. Because my truth is like I told you earlier, that girl broke my heart. And at that point in time, I had a real big resentment. And I really wanted to light her on fire. That's the truth. She hurt me, and I was mad. And but I wanted nothing more than to be, and this sounds real negative, but I wanted nothing more than to get my kid back and be like, fuck you, I wanted nothing more than that. And that was part of what drove me at first, So, I was doing all the things I was supposed to do as far as DHS was going, and I ended up graduating treatment. My idea when I got out of treatment was that I was going to move in with my first baby's mom so I could reacquaint a little bit with my oldest daughter. She had been clean for about 4.5 years or so. And I got out and I went to the treatment facility, to her house. And within a week's time, like in the first week, I woke up one morning to banging at the door at like 4:30 in the morning, and there she was. And I'm like, what the fuck? Anyways, how you doing? And you could just tell. And her trip is speed, and I'm a dope fiend, And it's kind of difficult for a speed freak to kind of hide that they're spun out, And so I'm just like, what the fuck is happening right now, right? A couple days went by because I'm going to treatment outpatient. I'm traveling like 3.5 hours on the bus to go see my daughter for a half hour way out in Hillsboro and coming all the way back. My youngest daughter in DHS, and I ended up 2 days after that. My daughter was crying when I got back to the house because she had moved in my baby's mom had moved in her mom, and her mom's a dope fiend too. And my oldest daughter had gone into her closet and found a huge shoebox full of used rigs, and was scared shitless. And I called my sponsor and I said, I need the fuck out of here, man. I was fresh, I was scared, and I didn't want to risk the opportunity to possibly be a dad. Because, when I showed up at CODA, man, I showed up there as a shell, man. I showed up there with nothing. I was a complete zombie, sick. And all I can say is when I showed up there, I had this small little flame in my heart, man, and that was the only life that I had that was burned inside of me. And that little flame was, and like I said, I was ignorant to what dad's rights were, but I just wanted to be able to see my kids, man. I know I'm a dad, and I got 2 little girls, and I just wanted them to know who I was, man. And I just wanted them to be able to see me, and I wanted to be able to see them maybe once a month or something. So I called my sponsor, and he said, man, I'll come get you right now. Pack up all your shit, and you're coming to my house. And so that's what I did, and I left my daughter there in that madness. I moved in with my sponsor, and I said, can we work fucking steps now? And he said, yes, let's get into the literature. And I hit the ground running, and I worked steps like I was doing homework, man. And I'll tell you what, because I'd been in the rooms, and I had tried, I had actually, like I told you, I'd gone to meetings, and I get a sponsor for my PO, and I built a little support group of people that I thought were cool, and chicks, but I never worked well, that isn't true. I had tried, to work a couple steps by myself, or in treatment or whatever, and my experience with steps was like, I worked step 1, 2, and 3, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid, man. I don't feel no different. I feel the exact same as I always have. When's this aha moment supposed to happen? And I didn't feel any fucking different, So I worked 1, 2, 3 with Rex is his name, and I still didn't feel any fucking different. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he sat me down, and we worked to step 4, and I worked to step 4 with him, and he told me just get as honest as you can, and I hit the pen and paper, and and so then I did that, completed that, and so we got to step 5, and step 5. As we're going through our resentments, that was easy. As we're going through our fears, I still had a lot of ego and a lot of pride, and so I probably didn't cop to all my fears or didn't really understand all my fears. Then we got to the sexual harms, which I had a ton. We got to the harms other than sexual, and I had a ton. And and the other than sexual, but then, I'm an ex-con, and I've done crime that I was taken to the grave, period. I did it by myself, and it was going to the grave, period, with me, anyways, and so, and it took a little bit and a couple cigarettes, before I told this shit to him, but I was able to let him know that, I had done some things in my past that would put me away for the rest of my life, and he's like, so, he's like, dude, I used to cook dope. And you know how many times people have burnt me and I've sent them off down the street with a hot shot or whatever? Well, who cares? Next question or next whatever, So, but what that did, where I'm going at with this is for the first time ever, is the steps, I actually felt something, I felt like I'd been carrying this huge fucking backpack, man, with all this weight and this fucking guilt and this shame and this remorse and shit that I didn't even realize that I possessed or had, right? But when I told him that shit, I felt like I took off that huge backpack, and I started feeling, I actually felt kind of free. I felt like, I wasn't, I don't even know how to, there's no words, I don't even think I can really put to it, man. But I just felt something different, man. And we worked that same day, we worked 6, 7, and 8, and we started started in step 9, and we got to step 9, and I was able to apologize to that baby's mom that I wanted to light on fire. I was able to tell her I was sorry for all the shit that I had done, which was a lot. Same with my other's baby's mom. I was able to tell my mother that I stole her wedding ring for $60 worth of crack. I was able to apologize for some of the things that I did and asked them or if there's anything that I could do to help them with their healing process. And most of them were like, no. I got a couple of fuck yous, get the fuck out of here. But what that did for me though, man, is that you hear it in the rooms, about cleaning up your side of the street. Well, that's what I was doing, and I was in that process. And at that point in time, when I started making some of these amends, I started buying into this shit, man. I started buying into the working steps. My sponsor used to either say, work steps or die, motherfucker, or work steps and live, whatever one you choose. And I believe that shit today, man, wholeheartedly, dude. I came here with no hope, hope just maybe to see my kids. I came here with no belief that I could ever stay clean. I came here with nothing, man. Like I said, I didn't even have a fucking pair of socks, man. And I sit here today, man, blessed that I'm able to drive my car, down here and get to speak with y'all, about what recovery looks like today, for me. I moving forward with all that stuff, man, my story is so long, I could speak for the next fucking 6 months. But what I can tell you, man, is that fire that I had when they told me that at the DHS FDM when they said, we placed the child with the best fit parent. That fire that I got that moment, man, I got that fire, if not even more, right now, man. And I'm 4 years clean now. You know what I mean? I love this shit, man. I love my life. I love what my life has become and evolved into. Never would have ever believed this was ever possible for a junkie criminal like me, man. So anyways, man, shifting back now to my kids again. Like I told you, I moved in with my sponsor. I started working steps with them. My daughter was still living at my baby's mom's house. And, my daughter would come and visit me every weekend and come stay with me at my sponsor's house. And after about a couple months or so, like 2 months, I noticed she was coming over on the weekends, and she had really big bags underneath her eyes, and she's like 7, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what the fuck, So what I did is I went to her school, or I called her school, and because that baby's mom we had never done anything with custody, so I could do whatever as far as that went. But I went to her school, and I asked for an attendance record, and for her first grade year, and I got it, and I was fucking mortified, man. It was like this. This isn't correct, but this is an example of pretty close to how it was. It was like October 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, 9th, 13th, 14th, 18th, 23rd, 24th, 28th, 29th, 30th, November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th, 12th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 24th, 27th, 28th, December 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And I was like, what the fuck, man? So that day, when I got that, I went and pulled my daughter out of school. I went down to court. I filed for emergency custody. I changed schools with the school that she was going to where I was at, or closer to me. And I was granted emergency custody of my daughter, my oldest daughter at that time. Had no idea fucking how to parent. I had no idea, man. Like I said, all I knew how to do was shoot dope, do crime, and do penitentiary time. And here I am. Now I've got my oldest daughter, who's a little bit smarter, and I didn't know what that looked like or how to do that. But you know what? I'd been around now for about 6 months or so, 7 months. And one thing I had learned early, like when I asked my sponsor to sponsor me, is I learned to drop that pride and that ego and ask for help. And that's what I do, man. I was like, hey, I don't know what do you cook them? You know what I mean? Or how do you ask them what you cook? Or, I was ignorant. I didn't know. I didn't know. But I asked for help, and I was bombarded with so much help. I can't believe it, man. So I got emergency custody of my oldest daughter. I ended up moving out of my sponsor's house, and I moved in because during the treatment process and the outpatient, I was doing a parenting class, which is like 15 weeks of parenting classes for like 2 hours twice a week. And I met a gentleman there who owned a house, and he had 3 kids. One of his daughter. He had 2 boys and a daughter, and the daughter was the same age as my daughter. And he offered me a room for $200. I was like, fuck yeah. So I moved in with him and brought my daughter with him. There was a nice house, trampoline, little pool, cool shit. And that's where I lived for a little bit, man. And I met a lady there in the house that was also renting a room. And we really clicked it off. She's a normie. She's like a eye technician and shit. So she doesn't get me, and I don't get her most of the time. But we were really, it wasn't, and it wasn't like in my times past with like a sexual type of thing. It wasn't. It was just we hung out and shit and did just normal shit, which I wasn't used to doing. You know what I mean? And anyway, so I moved in this house, and I'm still fighting my custody case. And it felt really crazy because I'd go to court, for these updates and these check-ins and shit, and baby's mom might be there or she might not. But what I started noticing those tables turning. They started talking about possible placement with me. They started talking, I'd turn the half-hour visits into 4-hour unsupervised visits. From the half-hour to the hour supervised, to the 2-hour supervised, to the 4-hour unsupervised, then to like a all day, and then to overnights. You know what I mean? And I ended up, long story short, while I was there, I ended up closing my DHS custody case, and I became full custodial parent of my youngest daughter. I also, at the same time, was going to custody. I went to like a mediation with my oldest baby's mom. Nothing was right there because she couldn't get clean. I was ready to do the 50-50, thing with her. She wouldn't get clean, but she'd gone to treatment a couple times in that span and would always leave right away, And long story short, again, I ended up getting I'm full custodial parent of both my kids now. How can you not believe in God? How can you not? I'm a junkie, man, that knows penitentiary life, that knows how to shoot dope, that knows how to do crime, dude. How the fuck dude, I got 2 kids and I'm full custodial parent of both my kids, both my little girls, man. You know what? And what a blessing that is. So I ended up closing my DHS custody case. I'm actually reporting to my PO now. I ended up finishing my PO, or finishing my parole, 27 years straight, no longer. I am so happy that I no longer have to piss in front of another man looking at me in the mirror. I swear that I always had that guy, that PO or whatever, that I was always, it's probably me, but I was always licking his lips and shit, But yeah, man, I don't got to do that shit no more, man. You know what I mean? I don't got to do that shit no more. And the blessing is it's like what are all the things that you get, man? It's endless. You know what I'm saying? And the sky's the limit for everybody in this room, man. There is no hierarchy here. That's what I've learned. Just because my sponsor has like 20 years pushing on 21, he's no different than me. Even though he's my sponsor, he's no different than fucking me. We're just junkies just trying to get it today, man. Same as everybody here, We're just junkies just trying to get it today, man. And, as I can, or from what I can tell, we're all winning right now because we're in here, and we're together. One thing I learned is I can't do this shit by myself. My best choices, I'm fucked, period. I make horrible choices and I end up in horrible places. I no longer have to eat fucked up bologna sandwiches with mustard, with warm milk, and fucking oranges and some... I no longer have to do that shit. If I choose not to, man. And that's what I choose to do today. Finish my tail. No longer am on parole after 27 years. That feels fucking great. I never thought that would ever happen. I full custodial parent. I ended up getting an apartment where I actually have toilet paper, where I can wipe my ass with toilet paper and not my socks. You don't understand, everybody. The time that I was on the street, I'm underneath the bridge. I'm in Portland underneath the bridges down there. I don't know what it's like to live in an apartment, other than couch surfing maybe. At the end of my addiction, dude, because all I'd know how to do is rob or steal your dope while you're sleeping, or steal your dope, help you look for it, or all those kinds of things, That's all I knew how to do, dude, it got so bad at the end where people didn't trust me so bad, even my dealers would not let me come to their house or their tent or nothing. They would meet me in like a public spot, like a Starbucks or a McDonald's or something, to do the little handoff, That's the only way that it would ever get done at the end, So that's what I knew. And for me to get an apartment, to become full custodial parent of both my kids, to kill my tail, parole, to start putting a little bit of time together, to having service positions, to working steps, to completing a round of steps, completing a round of traditions, and actually picking up a couple sponsees, and I fell in love with this shit, man. I fell in love with the rooms. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with watching people that were as messed up as me come in, just as broken as me, that would come in and they would just bawl their eyes out about, I'm not being disrespectful or rude, but bawl their eyes out about some nonsense. You know what I mean? Just some off the wall, oh, my left side was over, whatever that meant, okay, and just to love them until they could love themselves, but I understood that brokenness, you know what I mean? I understood what it was like, to be desperate enough to ask for help, and to open up when I had feelings and stuff. And man, I fell in love with watching 2 months later, that person is speaking sentences, or whatever, you know what I mean, or feeling or coming around, full circle and seeing kids seeing parents get their kids back, or seeing people, just get their lives back, man, and just seeing them change and actually wearing socks, and stuff like that, I mean, I fell in love with the shit, man, and so, for me, like you hear the keep coming back and all that kind of shit, or I'd heard of that a bunch of different times and stuff. And for me, the keep coming back never worked, because that means I could leave for a while. But what works for me now is I just say, just stay, man. And that's what I do, is I just stay, man. I stay in the middle. I don't get close to the edge. I have sponsees that I work steps with. And my sponsor right now is traveling, so I don't get an opportunity to actually work steps with him. But my sponsees keep me in the literature, man. Right now, as it stands, I've got a pretty good crew of sponsees, man, and I think I probably went through about 40 or 50 or 60 sponsees before I got this crew that I got right now. I got one that just celebrated a year. I got another that just celebrated a year. I got one that just celebrated 3 years. I got one that has more time with me. He's got 5 years, but he had never worked steps before, and he wanted that. And so he asked me to sponsor him, and we live in the same apartment complex. And I've got another sponsee that's coming up on his second year. What a blessing that is, and my truth, I don't know how long I have to talk. Do I have very much longer or not? I don't know, because I could speak forever. But okay, so I'll say this, man. For me, my truth, and what keeps me so grounded and so here, man, is and I say this every time I ever chair a meeting, every time I ever share, and I'm really speaking about me. I've mixed everything. I put everything in the spoon, dude. I've tried some weird shit, dude, and tried to mix it and shoot it, I mean? I mean some weird shit. And I'll put it like this, man. Never have I ever in my entire life, man, and this is my truth, in 48 years, ever done a better shot in my entire life that every single night I get to go in my daughter's room, they look up at me and they say, Daddy, I love you. You know what I mean? And to me, that makes it all worth it, man. You know what I'm saying, dude? I'm a dad today. You know what I'm saying? And still not a great one. I'll give you a quick little story about that. My 5-year-old, during Christmas time, because I swear a lot, she comes outside and she says, Happy fucking Christmas! And 2 days ago, as you can see, I burnt myself floating down the river, and I peeled off a piece of skin, and I had a piece of skin about that. It's gross, but and I had a piece of skin, and I went up to my 10-year-old, and I said, Hey, Mackenzie, try this see-through candy. It tastes like cinnamon. And she stuck out her tongue, and I stuck it right up to her mouth, about that far from her tongue. I said, That's my skin. And she's all, What the fuck? That's my 10-year-old. You know what I mean? So I'm still learning, you know what I mean? I'm still learning how to do this stuff, I'm still real teachable, I'm still hungry for, what the people that came before me have, you know what I mean? And I'm ever so blessed that there's been people that came before me that showed me that it was possible, man. That showed me that a junkie, dope fiend person like myself that had no belief and no hope, man, can stay clean if I chose to, man. You know what I mean? What a great, powerful thing that is for us to know that we have choice today, man. I mean that to me is fucking huge, man. That I have the choice. That I can. It's infinite, man. I can do whatever I want, man. And it's all up to me, And I used to really hate in meetings. You used to hear people talk, and they say, "Well, using is always an option." You know what I mean? Fuck that. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like that. If you're leaving that door open, then you're kind of fucked. You know what I mean? The way I always looked at it, man, is I have 52 cards in my life in my deck, and that used to be one of those cards. Well, what my choice was, I got rid of that fucking card, man. You know what I mean? I did. I just don't want that shit no more. Using just is not an option for me anymore, man. I don't want that, man. Daddy, I love you, man. That shit is priceless, man. And so it keeps me coming back, man, and it allows me to just stay. I hope that, again, like I said, my big suggestion to the people that are just, if they're new, is get a sponsor and work some steps, and try it. I mean, what do you got to lose? That's how I felt. What do I got to fucking lose? I mean, really. I was desperate enough that I was willing to do whatever it took, and that's what I did. And I'm reaping the benefits now, you know what I mean? And so can everybody else in here, And again, I'll say we're all just the same, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate Salem for allowing me to come down here. It's kind of strange, like I said. The only places I've lived here for 7 years, whatever, were just right around here, you know what I mean? And I didn't last very long at San Am, just to say that. But anyways, man, I guess. So let's see. Where do I close? So okay. Last thing. So since I'm what I've also been able to do is I've joined this group in Portland. It's called the Father's Advisory Board. Even though I don't really know how to be a dad, but what we do is we go to DHS corporate office and we talk to big treatment providers. We talk to. We come and have panels with new caseworkers for DHS. We are talking with trying to put together some stuff to take to legislature about fathers in recovery. Because here in the state of Oregon, there are 381 treatment beds. Out of those 381 treatment beds, there's 73 for women with their children. And there are 3 for either families like mother and father and their child, or a possible, what is it? Or is it just 1 for a father? Or how's that work? Okay, well it's 3. It's 3, but most but I think that they have 3 for a father. So I'm all about go dads. I believe that dads should have rights too. I believe dads should have an opportunity to have their child in treatment. And I would just like to see a little more of a fair playing field. Because like I said, when I got here, I was ignorant. I didn't think that I had rights. I didn't think that I could be a dad. I thought that my best case scenario was I just wanted to visit my kids for them to know that I was dad. So I'm fighting to hopefully change that perception of what dads look like. You know what I mean? It isn't always that we're not always the breadwinners. You know what I mean? We can be the caretakers too. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to change that a little bit. Or not I, but we as a group do that. And so that's a real blessing for me. I'm also the chair of HA area, that's where I met Jessica at. And that to me is huge. You know, they and before that I was the treasurer of the Way Out's money. And I was at that position for like 2 years, man. They let me have all their money, you know what I mean, for a couple years straight. And God, that just blows my mind, man, because I'm not that guy, you know what I mean, that anybody in the past or whatever would ever let that or be able to do that, you know what I mean. So I was able to do that. You know, I'm also one of 3 Oregon delegates to where I get to go to the World Convention, and we get to talk business about what our literature looks like and some other big keynotes, you know, when that comes up. And man, it's so exciting to me. And like I said earlier, man, is I'm on fire for this shit, man. And hopefully there's something that someone says or does or whatever that gets you on that same kind of fire, man. Because every single person in here is worth it, man. You know, I mean, they really are, man. They're worth it, and it's never too late. And we start out, you know, clean, safe, fresh today, you know. And thank you guys for inviting me. And I guess I'm gonna say that's it. So I'm done.